This is Frodo, your fat Florida footy freak, and welcome to episode 24 of the Stray Dog Footy podcast. I hope you're all well and keeping safe. And to my Victorian listeners, I hope that some easing of the COVID restrictions are indeed imminent. Now, I forgot to mention last episode that we recently hit 1,000 downloads, and I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who has tuned in to my inane mumblings and ramblings. Not a huge number, I know, but considering I'm focusing primarily on 1/18th of a niche market most Americans have no idea even exists, I can't complain. I never got into this with the idea of massive numbers, but if someone learned something new or found something useful on their journey to a newfound footy fandom, then I'm happy. Besides, the many kind comments I receive have been wonderful. And if I sold just one Bulldogs International membership with this podcast, then it's been worth it. Speaking of memberships, I was on the Bulldogs website a few nights ago and saw that the interstate memberships were once again available. Previously, the Purchase Now option had been removed due to the coronavirus preventing fans from attending matches, and thus not being able to purchase ticketed memberships. Well, either something changed in the law or there was a computer glitch, but I jumped at the chance to add another Bulldogs membership. If memory serves, I think that makes 8 Bulldogs memberships. In case you were curious about some of the different memberships that are available, I have, in no particular order, an international membership, an AFLW, a sideline, a pet for my dog, a Footscray VFL, a top dog, a Bulldogs backyard, and now that interstate one. What I'm most excited for is that this 5-game membership, that I probably won't be able to attend, will qualify me for the E.J. Witten Social Club membership, which will then open up the Sutton Premiership Circle membership as well. I hope it doesn't sound like I'm bragging, but even if it does, I have no regrets, as I do love to support my footy club. So go, the mighty, mighty Bulldogs. Before I get into the latest matches, I want to mention that while we were doing a bit of renovating in the house this week, or DIY as they call it down under, I played a couple of older Bulldogs regular season matches from 2015 and 2016, both against the Swans as it turned out, on the old non-regional DVD player. It was so awesome seeing the crowds again. But wow, how I missed the full 20-minute quarters. It just seems so epic in comparison to what we have had this year. The games are much more of a spectacle. The fatigue factor is, and should be, such a huge part of a match. That's when things really get interesting. When the guts and the determination that E.J. Witten spoke about in that famous speech come out on display. And the extra time just makes everything and anything more possible. There's almost always time for a comeback. I think anyone who argues for keeping the shorter quarters beyond COVID is out of their ever-loving minds. What fan actually wants less footy played? Surely we can hold this truth as self-evident. Knock on wood, or touch on wood as they say in Oz, that the powers that be come to their senses and file away these mini-quarters with the rest of the horrible events of 2020, directly in the never-again bin. Okay. Let's take a look back at round 17. On Thursday, we started off with St. Kilda and West Coast. The Saints led early, but the injured Eagles still managed to fight their way back and win by a score of 65-50. On Friday night footy, we had the catfight between Geelong and Richmond. The Tigers disrupted pretty much everything the Cats wanted to do and easily won by a score of 57-31. I have to say, seeing Dusty pick up a spinning ball up off the ground like a botanist plucking a tulip really puts things in perspective, considering I can barely get both feet through my underwear without falling over. Oh well. Then Super Saturday began with the Kangaroos and the Dockers. If North isn't careful, they could end up stealing the dubious honor of the wooden spoon, right out of Adelaide's talons. Very disheartening for the fans, I'm sure, especially considering how strong they started the season. They were soundly trounced by Fremantle, 99-35. Thanks for nothing, Kangas. I really don't need Freo going into the last round on a high note. Next, on Saturday, we saw Port Adelaide versus Essendon. The season just can't be over soon enough for Dons fans, I think. Not only did the Bombers fly up, the power shot them out of the South Australian sky, and they crashed and burned to the tune of 79-29. It seems the head coaching transition / turnover flight plan has hit quite a bit of turbulence this year, and there is much unrest at the hangar, as well as the neighborhoods north of Melbourne. Stay tuned, sports fans. It might get uglier before it gets better. Still on Saturday, we had the Giants and the Demons. As most previous listeners to this podcast know, I have two favorite teams, the Bulldogs and whoever's playing GWS. Well, this round, considering that the Orange Menace was holding on to the last spot of the top 8, it was doubly true. Of course, the Demons are still right there, nipping at our back paws as well, but I guess there was no way they could both lose. As it turned out, the D's eked out a win 79-74 over the Giants, who had dropped their captain for selection for this game. Something no team has done in 22 years, apparently. Not sure that was the best move, honestly, as I think Caniglio is usually good for at least a 5-point swing in any contest. Again, not saying I'm upset by the outcome, though. Then on Sunday, we had Carlton and Adelaide. Can you believe the Crows lately? With a dominant first quarter, in fact a dominant first half, they led the entire game, winning their third in a row. This time by a score of 72-56, effectively nailing the lid shut on the coffin of Carlton's finals hopes. After the game, retiring Adelaide player Bryce Gibbs was carried off the field on the shoulders of two Carlton players who were his friends from his 231 games that he played at the Blues. Though some people seem to think this was a strange act, I mean, I get it. Why would you tear off a player who left your club? Especially right then after your chance at playing finals was erased. But I thought it a touching moment. One that reminds us that the players are more than just commodities in a particular uniform. Next on Sunday, we saw the Hawks meeting my beloved Bulldogs. The match started out with quite an emotional roller coaster for our own Toby McLean. Less than 20 seconds after the bounce, he took a handball from Wallace and kicked a running goal from about 20 meters out. Then, just over a minute later, he hurts his knee as he was brought to the ground, and the tackler, Hawthorne's ruckman, fell on the side of his leg. The way Toby immediately grabbed it reminded me so much of how Bob Murphy grabbed his knee early in 2016 after playing these same Hawks. It screamed ACL, and sure enough, after McLean was stretchered off the field, later scans would indeed confirm the worst-case scenario. Toby McLean, wearing the iconic Guernsey number 16, was drafted to the Western Bulldogs in 2014 with pick number 26. He is considered a small mid-forward at just 5'11", but there was nothing small about his under-18 performance at the Oakley Chargers, where he took second place in the league's Best and Fairest Awards, as well as nabbing the best on ground in their grand final. He made his AFL debut in round 10 of season 2015, and his speed, high-flying ability, skill, and kicking quickly made him a Bulldogs favorite. He has so far played 91 games and kicked 58 goals for the Dogs. Perhaps more importantly, he is a crucial part of one of the best midfields in the competition. His presence will be sorely missed, and I know I'm joined by the entire Bulldogs family when I wish him a speedy recovery. I actually had the pleasure of meeting and talking a little with Toby McLean last year during my visit to Australia, and he was just a really nice guy. I was standing by the fence during an open practice at the kennel, taking some pictures of the team at training, and he and Zane Cordy walked over to the fence to say hi. After signing a birthday card for the friend of a couple of young ladies there, and perhaps signing some autographs for a father and his young son, Toby said hi to me. This big goofy dude, twice his age, way too old to be swooning over athletes, and then he shook my hand. He commented on my accent, and then asked if that was a camera in my hand. And yes, it was indeed an old-fashioned camera, the kind that you couldn't call or text anyone with. And then he asked me if I wanted to take a selfie with him. Now, of course, I wanted a selfie, but come on, I wasn't going to ask. I was neither a teenage girl nor a kid prompted by my dad. In fact, I had been way too shy to ask any of the players I had met previously at the club. It just seemed kind of rude to even be asking them while they were hanging out. But now suddenly it was okay, and we lined up side by side on either side of the fence and proceeded to take the worst selfie ever made. I did mention that this was just an old camera, right? Not a phone with a screen that you could see what you were doing. Anyway, a wasted opportunity that has since evolved into a humorous story. At least I find it funny. Perhaps my poor photography skills were in fact accented by how unbelievably cool it was to meet Toby McLean in person. I mean, here was a premiership hero who is one half of what is perhaps the most iconic Bulldogs photo in the AFL era. Right up there with the flying E.J. Whitten in the VFL that has since been turned into statues and murals all over Melbourne. Likewise, Toby's image has been made into a Footscray mural as well, in addition to many other things. I may even have seen a cake one time with the image on it. I am, of course, talking about the image from the moment when he jumped on Tom Boyd's back, when the tall forward had kicked that fourth quarter grand final goal from the center square after Del Morris tackled Buddy, knocking the ball loose. Toby has since downplayed the event, saying that he didn't really do anything to deserve being in such an iconic image, that it was Boyd who scored the goal and he was just celebrating. But what he may not realize, and I may be projecting here, but in that instant, every single Bulldogs fan jumped up there with him, shedding the weight of 62 long years of heartbreak and disappointment in the process. Okay, in case you didn't realize, that was this episode's Bulldog bio. And now let's head back to the match. Despite the crushing psychological blow of seeing a teammate go down with a season-ending injury, the Bulldogs kept on coming. Jason Johannesson scored 2 goals in the first quarter, and then Aaron the Astronaut Naughton joined the party. Not to be outdone, Bailey Smith got the ball running away from goal and kicked it through over his head. At halftime, the Bulldogs led 7-1, and despite a third-quarter surge by Hawthorn, the Dogs had it in the bag pretty much the entire game. Perhaps my favorite play was by Caleb Daniel, with about 5.5 minutes left in the fourth, when he intercepted a pass and ran it toward an empty goal square, slotting the 6 points. Not a bad way to cap off his 28th disposal, 546 meters gained afternoon. In the end, the Doggies won by a score of 76-40. Again on Sunday, we had the Swans taking on the Lions. Sydney looked to be well into it, pulling within 2 points a few minutes into the fourth quarter. But then Brizzy exploded and beat the Bloods to the tune of 73-41. And finally on Monday Night Footy, we saw the Magpies against the Suns. In case anyone forgot, this DeGoey guy is pretty good. Mason Cox had one of the best games of his career as well. The Gold Coast held in there for most of the match, keeping it very interesting, even leading by more than a goal at one point in the third quarter. But a late and unanswered surge by Collingwood gave them the win by a score of 68-46. Okay, let's see how things stand on the ladder with just one more round to go in this COVID-abbreviated 2020 home and away season. In the driver's seat of the top 4 we have at number 1, Port Adelaide, Brisbane, Richmond, and Geelong. Then, clinging on for dear life to the bottom rungs of the finals ladder, there's at 5, West Coast, at 6, Collingwood. At 7th, we have St Kilda, who are holding on by percentage over my Bulldogs in 8th. At 9th position, we have Melbourne, then GWS, Freo, Carlton. At 13th position, we have Essendon, then Gold Coast, Sydney, Hawthorn, North Melbourne, and finally, still in 18th, but now only by percentage, we have Adelaide. Okay, now let's not waste any more time and look ahead to round 18, the last round of the 2020 regular season. On Thursday Night Footy, we have North Melbourne and West Coast. West Coast could conceivably get into the top 4 with a strong win, but North would be desperate to avoid the wooden spoon a really bad loss could award them. Here in America, you can see this match on Fox Sports 2. Then, on Friday Night Footy, we get St Kilda and GWS. The Saints will want to hang on to their spot in the top 8, though a loss could see them drop out of finals contention entirely. As far as the Giants, though they need some help, they are still a chance at finals. This match is also available on Fox Sports 2 here in the States. Next, Saturday starts off with the Dons and the D's. Like GWS, Melbourne will need some help getting to the finals, but if they win, they have a shot depending on how the other pieces fall. This match will be shown on ESPN2 here in America. Also on Saturday, we have the Crows and the Tigers. With a loss, the Tigers could actually fall out of the top 4 and lose the advantages these positions hold for the finals fixture. Not that many people are tipping this upset, but hey, anything can happen, right? Unfortunately, this match is not scheduled for American television. Head on over to www.watchafl.com and sign up to get in on all of the end of season and finals action. As always, I will post a link in the show notes for more information on how to get the app. And more action on Saturday brings us Brisbane and Carlton. Brisbane is a tough nut to crack, but I bet that after 18 years at the club, the Blues would love to send Cade Simpson off into retirement on a high note in his 342nd and last game. Brisbane, on the other hand, could conceivably nick the minor premiership with a win, so you know they won't make it easy. If you have access here in the States, you can see this game on ESPN3. Then Sunday, with a late Saturday start here in the USA, we have the Hawks taking on the Suns. Neither team has a chance at finals, and I believe this is the only match this round without playoff implications. Again, whether this was by forethought or serendipity, there is no American TV coverage scheduled for this match. Again, the Watch AFL app is your best bet if you still want to see this contest. And why wouldn't you? Footy in and of itself is still awesome. Next, there's the Swans and Cats. Geelong are just barely sitting inside the top 4, and with an unexpected loss to Sydney, they could fall out of this coveted bracket. You can see this match on Fox Sports 2 in the USA. Also on Sunday, with a super convenient 4 a.m. start here in the States, we have Freo taking on my Bulldogs up there at Kazali Stadium in Cairns. And yes, I am sure I am probably mispronouncing the name of that city, but I'm just a dumb Yank, so you'll have to excuse me. The Dockers would not be my first choice to play in a do-or-die match right now, as they have been playing some pretty strong footy of late. But it is what it is. If we win, we're in. The finals, that is. And the Doggies should win this one. Should. So, once again, knock or touch all the wood in the damn forest that you need to, that the Bulldogs do what I know they can do. And speaking of wood, here's hoping Easton's hammy has healed and he makes it back for this one. Toby's left a pretty big hole in the midfield, so I wouldn't mind shoring up our defense a bit. Here in America, you can see this most important match on Fox Sports 1. Then we wrap up the regular season with a Monday night footy clash between the Pies and the Power. Not much is likely to change aside from bragging rights, depending on the outcome here. Port will stay in the top 4, but could conceivably fall to number 2 with a loss, and the Pies could drop as far as 8, but still make the finals no matter what. Of course, it will all affect who plays who in the first round of the finals. In America, this match will be shown on Fox Sports 2. Well, my friends, I think that should just about do it for this episode. As always, I thank you so much for listening. I would be so very thankful if you would be kind enough to share a link to this podcast with your friends and family. Maybe even give me a like and a rating wherever you listen to your podcasts. This particular podcast can be found on your favorite podcast player or at straydogfooty.podbean.com. Podbean being the place where I personally listen to all my podcasts. I would, of course, love to hear your feedback. Please let me know what you like or dislike or even hate about this pod. I'm always willing to hear what I could do to make it better. Like always, you can reach me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Stray Dog Footy and by email at straydogfooty@yahoo.com. And here's the point in the program where I mentioned that I am not endorsed by or officially affiliated with either the Australian Football League or the Western Bulldogs Football Club, beyond being a huge fan and supporter. Likewise, I am not endorsed or affiliated with Pagan the Rejected, but I do like their music very much. I would like to thank them for the use of their song, Red, White, Black, and Blue, which I used a portion of as the intro to this episode. I will also play us out to their entire song, and of course, leave a link in the show notes to their music. I wonder if some people just don't listen to this podcast only to hear this song, but I can't really blame them. Before we go, let me remind you to keep spreading the word about the AFL itself. You know, I enjoy meeting new footy fans all the time, and I think you would too. But they don't have to be strangers either. As you know, these days, just reaching out to a loved one and asking how they're doing can make all the difference in their lives. And while you're at it, maybe you can consider sharing YouTube videos of footy as well. For the truly uninitiated, a great one to start with is called NINH, that is NINH, Explains Australian Rules Football. Also, if you're looking here in the States, check out the United States Australian Football League, or USAFL for short. They have teams all across the country, in just about every city, almost 50 of them actually, and they have both men's and women's squads. And there's new ones popping up all the time, or at least now and then. And I'm sure they would love to have you come out and participate in any way that you could. Go to www.usafl.com to learn more. Okay, everyone, take care, be safe, get well, Toby, and now, more than all season long, go the mighty, mighty doggies.